Hey, this is Andrew, and we are doing another Keyforge set review. This time, we're going to be looking at all the Shadows cards in Worlds Collide, and I have with me my nephew Cadence. Hi, Cadence.
Hello.
So, Cadence has been playing Keyforge since it first came out, really. And Cadence, what's your favorite thing about Keyforge?
It's very unpredictable, yet predictable if you know more about it. That makes sense.
Yeah, totally. There's a lot of randomness, but you can kind of learn to control it as you go. And Cadence had the I guess, prestige of going 4-2 at the last vault tour he attended, although he's been lucky enough to get out to three, all the same ones as I have. So that's been fun. Cool. Okay, so let's start off then with my intro questions. When you open up a deck, Cadence, and you see, okay, it has shadows on it. When you open up specifically a Worlds Collide deck and you see it has shadows on it, what types of capabilities are you hoping to get out of the deck, out of shadows in the deck?
Uh, Hopefully a lot of control depends on. I mean, there's a lot more control cards in Worlds Collide, so you can get it's a lot of creature control compared to just Amber control in the previous sets. You can get definitely a lot of it from uh, no
Yeah,
safety in numbers and too much to protect.
yeah, totally. Yeah, there's a lot of. It's amazing, really, how many shadows cards have steel on them. Um, there's also, like you were saying, there's quite a lot of just direct damage where you're plinking creatures for 1, 2, 3 damage and hopefully keeping the board clean. That way, you don't necessarily want to do a ton of fighting, but there are a lot of ways to kill stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There are also some ways to purge creatures, which is nice. Some ways to force your opponent to discard random cards, and Shadows likes to do some random elements themed around gambling. Logos does some randomness that tends to be focused on drawing or archiving or otherwise manipulating your own deck, whereas Shadows tends to be a little more money focused or about like playing an opponent's random card, although we don't have Merkins in this set, but a little bit more randomness that includes your opponent. Cool. So, Cadence, when you see that you have shadows on the deck, what other house would you most like to have with it?
One of the better ones is Untamed.
Mm-hmm.
Not just because you get extra amber control. Uh, Key charge is great with it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the, and you probably want either Saurian or Brobnar. Brobnar because you can just board wipe them constantly,
Mm-hmm.
and Saurian can definitely go with some of the capturing cards,
Mm-hmm.
and also has some big creatures as well.
Yeah. So for my choice, I picked Logos, and my reasoning was that Logos just does such a great job of helping accelerate you through your deck and put away key components for when you need them. And because Shadows is around Amber control, there are some cards that are really lame at certain moments, right? Because if your opponent has 0, then stealing 3 isn't very good. Um, it's really helpful to be able to tuck cards away for later, especially like you mentioned, too much to protect. It's a great archive target. So I really like Logos to help me manage the shadows cards that are going to have a big impact on the game. Um,
Definitely.
so I'll go first on the combo. I'll start with just 2 cards, but then I'm going to add a third in. I got to see somebody already playing with Ronnie wrist clocks and hit and run, and that was just devastating because you get 1 or 2 steal from the Ronnie, and then hit and run does 2 damage to one of your opponent's creatures, and then you get to return the Ronnie to your hand, play it again, and get even more steel.
Yeah,
But
I actually have that combo in one of my decks.
awesome. Yeah.
It's
Okay.
pretty
Yeah.
great.
I think it must have been your deck then. And then if I could add a third card into that combo, it would be Brend, the Fanatic, because being able to, if your opponent's at 6, you can play the Brend, push them up to 7, play Ronnie, steal 2, dropping them down to 5, hit and run, putting 2 on the Brend. Now you're almost to where you'll get that kill it and get 3 steal, and then play the Ronnie out again and get a third steal from it. There's just like some amazing stuff you can do with that setup.
And you can easily get, if you had another card combo, you can easily get to that threshold of 6 to Brend steal with too much protect.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. Yeah. What's your favorite combo in Worlds Collide Shadows?
It's actually another combo I have in that deck, which is Inky Gloom and Into the Inky Gloom stops them from reaping, and Into the Night stops them from fighting with non-shadows cards. So if they don't have shadows, they're locked out with creatures.
Oh yeah, you just got a free turn.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Cool. And then I know you said you had 2 legacy cards marked down. What are they? That you would love to get as legacies in a Shadows deck?
One is Shadow, or one is Urchin.
Mm-hmm.
Because of your plinking cards, you can get your benefits right after stealing one.
Oh,
really
right.
bad. And then another one that plinks from the last set, Whistling Darts.
Mm-hmm.
Gets you an amber and then plinks all of them. So if they have 2 powers out, you can plink them again.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you have.
Yep. Yep, that seems good. So I also wrote down 2. I couldn't keep myself to 1. I think probably the correct answer as far as game impact is it would be great to have Miasma back. That's just such a good card for, stalling them out for a turn, sometimes so you can get a bigger steal with too much to protect, or sometimes just to lock the game win in. And then the other card I felt like was a little bit missing is Nerve Blast. There's not something quite in that slot, I feel like, in the current set. There's, it does the steal 1 and then deal 2 damage to something, and there is still a ton of steal, but it's from looking through I'll see, maybe I'll change my mind after we read through it all, but it seems like most of the steal in this set is slightly slower. It requires you to have the creatures on the board first for the most part.
Yeah. The closest thing that is hit and run with the Ronnie, something like that, but even that is 2 cards.
Yep.
You can get the same effect with Urchin and Nerve Blast in set 1.
Yep. Yeah. So, and then if I could have any Maverick, I think the Maverick I would go with is Nature's Call. It would benefit Shadows, which is of course an Untamed card, but Nature's Call would benefit Shadows in a couple ways. First off, there are some Shadows cards that you would want to get the play effect again, like your Ronnie or maybe even a Snecklift or something like that. But also, Nature's Call is good soft board control, and it gives some cover for some of your other creatures that want to reap or action to do work. And so it serves both purposes in Shadows, and I think would make a great Maverick.
My Maverick was most key cheats are just amazing. There's a reason why the 2 key cheats in Shadows are terrible. And that's because they can get insane Ambergen with too much to protect and whatnot. And a +2 key cheat is always worse than key charge, which is just insanely good.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, and then what anomaly would you like to see in Shadows?
Memolith with definitely with too much protect.
Yeah, that's what I put too.
Yep, Memolith and anything in Shadows is amazing.
Yeah, totally.
especially against some set 2 and set 3 decks because they have less artifact control.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, cool. All right, let's go ahead and start diving into the cards then. So the first one, and we're just going through them in numeric order as they appear numerically. So we'll be going through commons, then uncommons, then rares. And so the first one we have here is Avenda, which is a 4-power elf thief. Avenda has the Reap effect, deal 1 damage to a creature. If this damage destroys that creature, your opponent discards a random card from their hand. That's okay.
No, the only downside I see with it is it's basically Mind Barb or the Shadows version in this set, which, although you can do it many times, it has the drawback of having to kill a creature with 1 damage.
Yeah, although I'll say even like Reap deal 1 damage to a creature is not bad. Like I don't hate that.
No,
and
not
then
at
it's
all.
just occasionally going to be a nice little benefit. So yeah, seems fine to me. Cool, and you can cover the so the next one goes really well with it, right? Go ahead.
Oh yeah. Bad Penny. Super old card. Just return it back to your hand when it's killed. So
Yep.
you have a Vend out, you play Bad Penny, get rid of it, discard it. Or
Yep.
you have to discard it.
Yeah, and Bad Penny's been in every set so far, so this is a nice Shadows staple, but she's a 1-power human thief with the destroyed ability, return Bad Penny to your hand. Cool. I'll read this next one, and then if you want to read the one after that, we can play it that way. So Breaker Hill is a 1-power elf thief with elusive, and each of Breaker Hill's neighbors gains action steal 1. I'll be really interested to see how this works out. This seems like a very interesting card to me.
Oh yeah. It can be very, very weird. Although it's great with things that only have play effects, such as Dr. Escoterra. Although you're not going to be getting Dr. Escoterra very often in set 3.
Right. No, that's a good point, right? Because it's action, so if your opponent, if the card has a Reap effect, it won't be able to do this and take advantage of that Reap effect. But I'm always interested to see, like, I love Dusk Runner because it gives you the opportunity to do some stealing outside of your Shadows turns, and I like that Breaker Hill gives that, gives you a chance at having that sort of thing happen.
Yeah, it's another thing about Shadows is it doesn't have a whole lot of out of house stuff. Mostly upgrades that do that. It's a cool card to see where it just basically guarantees that it's a new house unless you have more Shadows creatures.
Yep. Totally. Okay, cool. Why don't you read the next one?
And then one of the ones we already talked about, Hit and Run. Deal 2 damage to your creature, return a friendly creature to your hand.
Yep.
It's can definitely be a good card, although there aren't a whole lot of play effects that you can get in Shadows, sadly.
Yeah, I feel like there are less in this set than in previous sets. So that is a little bit of a bummer, although, it could work with out of, other houses cards too. And if you have something that has some damage on it like this, that's fine. So yeah, seems good. Cool. Okay. So, oops, there we go. Next one is Hawk. Hawk is an action with a bonus amber, and it has the play effect, destroy an artifact. If you do, gain an amber.
This is just a plain good card in most cases. You can just, because there is not a whole lot of plain artifact control. You got Poltergeist, which is pretty good, but there are very few amber control cards, and having one in Shadows that can gain you 2 amber is great.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's cool that they reference Orb of Wonder, which is an anomaly here. And I'm wondering, there's this. If you look at the card art, there's this giant, maybe gorilla-looking thing that's towing this carriage, and I wonder if I don't know. It just seems a little odd. Shadows doesn't generally have a lot of big hulking creatures, so who knows what that thing is. All I know
Yeah,
is I'm
it's
scared.
very clear that it's Shadows and not an out of house thing because of the patches on it.
Yeah, yeah.
Or it's like the Shadows logo, which is on basically every creature that I've.
Yep. Cool. All right, why don't you read the next one?
Hugger Mugger. It's a bit of a weird one. Has elusive and play capture one. Then if your opponent has more forged keys than you, steal one.
Yeah.
It's an odd card, but it can definitely be very good, especially with Selwyn.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, it's 3 power. So yeah, if your opponent is not ahead, then this is worse than say Old Bruno, which would capture 3. But it's not that much worse. I think it's fine. And that possibility of stealing one, it seems pretty good. So I don't mind it. I think Shadows has a few like catch up type effects, and this is one of those. So that's good. Okay, so then the next one is Inky Gloom. You mentioned this one. It's an action that says your opponent cannot use creatures to reap on their next turn. That's really strong. Giving your opponent a whole turn where they just can't reap is really good.
Yeah, especially good if you're behind in board state. It just forces them to fight your elusive creatures.
Right.
And then especially if you another card's coming up, if you can enrage one of them. So
Mm.
it's a very similar effect, but
Yep.
getting them to fight, not a bad effect when they have to fight elusive.
Yeah. Um. So J Venda is, I think, it looks like the brother of A Venda, which was the first card we saw. And J Venda is a 2-power elf thief with elusive, and it has the reap effect: deal a damage to a creature. If this damage destroys that creature, steal an amber. That seems real good, and I feel like between this and A Venda, like there are reasons to keep Bad Penny out, which I almost never felt was true in either previous set. So
The thing about having Bad Penny, it's not just a plain 1 power. It's you get it for both effects.
mhm.
So you have both you're basically getting a nerve blast and mind are out of
Mhm.
few creatures, especially gaining the amber and being able to do that over and over.
Mhm. Yeah. Yep, it seems good. Cool. Okay, you want to do the next one?
Sure. So Keymore Eclipse. This one's definitely can be great, which is shuffle each flying creature into its owner's deck.
Mhm.
It's so weird because you can get your play effects back into your deck,
Mhm.
and then you can get rid of their like strong cards that they just played,
Mhm.
especially if they played like an abate or shred or something.
Mhm.
Just give me my stuff back instantly.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. I think it's uh, ideally good soft board control, right? You're keeping those creatures off the board, but and you have a little more control over what gets hit, but you don't have tons of control, right? Because you don't get to decide what your opponent has out on the flank. So yeah, it's a little interesting that way.
Yeah, it's
We'll see.
significantly worse than and Lost in the Woods, which
Right.
is
Right, which gives you an amber in addition to letting you pick.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, it would be interesting if you got I guess a Legacy Maverick Spectral Tunneler here. That's a little much, but you could potentially make a third of your opponent's creatures, a third one of them, be flank,
yeah.
and
I don't think I've ever seen
yeah.
the part of Spectral Tunneler where it makes the creature flank come into effect.
Yeah,
Just not.
it's pretty rare. It's pretty rare, but you never know. Cool. Okay, go for it.
Was that you?
Oh, you go ahead.
Okay. Mug. Gain an amber. You play effect. You move one amber from a creature to your pool. Deal 2 damage to that.
Yep.
So it goes pretty well with Hugger Mugger considering it keeps it alive. But you
Hmm.
can also use it just to get an amber back from an enemy, especially with Saurian and.
Yeah, and also if there's no amber on a creature, then this is basically just deal 2 damage because the second part is not going to be contingent on the first. There's no because of do as much as you can. Even if you can't move an amber from a creature to your pool, you can still deal 2 damage to a creature.
And
So
the thing that makes it good is the fact that it gains you an amber immediately. You can get 2 amber and deal 2 damage.
hmm yeah, yep, yeah, in the right conditions, that's pretty good. Totally. Cool. So Pestering Blow is an action with a bonus amber, and its play effect is deal 1 damage to a creature and enrage it.
This is one of the things I was just talking about.
Hmm.
Getting it to enrage is pretty great when you're doing it on like something like a Tesmal or something. Just
Hmm.
forces them to. So, so you're not having to deal with stuff. You have to fight your thing for a turn.
Hmm. Yeah, it's good on creatures with a Reap effect. And because this is a new effect, I'll just explain it really quickly. So when a creature is enraged, it gets a token on it. That works similar to like stun. But as long as it has that token, uh, if it can fight, then it can't reap. If you use it, you have to fight with it. So it is a good way to keep a particular creature from being able to reap for at least one use. And it's there's the card we looked at that prevents the Inky Gloom that prevents all your opponent's creatures from reaping on their next turn. Pestering Blow, that creature, they might not even choose that house next turn, and that token's still going to stay on that creature until they actually go to and fight with it. So it sticks around a bit longer, even though obviously it's only affecting one creature. Cool. Why don't you go for it?
This is this is a great card. Ronnie Wrist Clock, steal 1. If your opponent has 7 or more, steal 2 instead.
Yep.
It's just a good card. There was a there was that weird ruling at one of the Vault Tours where if you only stole 2 if your opponent had 8, where if you stole 1 if your opponent
Yeah.
still had 7 or more, you would steal another. Just didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, that's weird. I would. Yeah, that's fine. It didn't stand. Yeah. So yeah, it is. If your opponent has 7, then the steal 2 completely replaces the steal 1, and it's not looking back. It's all processed at the same time. But yeah, being able to potentially steal 2 is uh, very good. Being able to steal 1 is really good. So
The
I
only
like it.
thing I would say makes it could make it worse than Urchin is
Mhm.
the fact that it has an extra power, so it can't synergize as well with the Vin does.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Although, that also makes it more useful in other ways. So I think it's a bit of a
Yeah.
trade-off there.
I mean, it's not a huge downside considering it's just getting more
Yeah.
power instead of you getting some effects.
Yep. Cool. So next up is Simon. Simon's a 1-power alien thief. It's very interesting. It has skirmish, and the fight effect is put the creature Simon fights on top of its owner's deck. So it's almost like a collector worm from Mars or something like a collector worm decided to come join Shadows. It's pretty weird.
Yeah, it's very weird. It's it's another form of creature control,
Hmm.
which is just great in Shadows.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and yeah, that is great because if the creature that you're fighting um, has elusive, all the better, right? Because you don't really care about dealing that damage. You just want to put it on top of the opponent's deck and hopefully clog it up and annoy them.
Mm-hmm.
This is like extra good if your opponent has, if your opponent has a Brend on the board. This is just fantastic.
Oh yeah, just give me the amber. You
Yep.
don't get you when you do get to steal it. You'll be stealing nothing at that point.
Right. Yeah. Brutal.
It'll be no net. And then it was a pretty funny errata before they fixed it. Used to be an elf thief.
Oh, nice. Well, I'm I'm glad. I'm glad it's sorted.
It is now.
Cool. All right, you're up.
Trust no one. Steal one. If there are no friendly creatures in play, instead steal one for each house represented among enemy creatures to maximum of. It's very similar. It has some elements of like how set to Sanctum and
Hmm.
Star Alliance with how many houses are represented.
Hmm.
It's always a pretty interesting effect.
Yeah, yeah, and so it is maximum of 3, but Steel 3 without it being Alpha or Omega is quite strong. This I feel like is a nice way to catch up if your opponent has board control. Um, this gives you something really great you can do anyway. And Steel 1 isn't bad. Like I don't mind having an action that says Steel 1. I'm quite happy with that.
And then if you have a creature or two out, you can key more and then use it for however much is still.
Oh yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah, definitely the play timing can matter in certain circumstances with a card like this. Yeah, good point. Okay, so the next one is our old friend Umbra. Umbra is a 2-power elf thief with skirmish and fight steal 1. So pretty simple. He's been
Yep,
around.
very simple. Another playing type, except for it's 2, so definitely helps get the numbers down. It's always very nice to hit that plank on something after using.
Yeah, yeah, hitting something for 2 is fine, right?
Definitely,
Um,
never, almost never bad.
yeah,
And then
and mhm.
something interesting I forgot to point out. This is in the new set. There's no sanctum,
Hmm.
and that means a lot less armor, which makes the planking all the more.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. It works a little better, uh, and it's worth noting, like Bad Penny, this Umbra has been in every single set so far. So I think this is only the second card so far that has been in every single set.
And it's another uh, average, if not slightly above average card.
Hmm. Yeah, yep, it's great. Cool. You want to read Yancey?
Yeah. Like Pit Demon, Anti-Gang Action, Steel 1.
Yep.
Just a versatile card. And basically, one probably where you get Breaker Hill from is one of those cards.
He's probably in the gang.
Something like that.
Yeah, yeah, and it's 5 power, which is pretty big for something that can steal multiple turns. Cool.
It's
So,
it's a nice protection card, especially if you can get something to give it taunt.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's going to be hard for them to get rid of with direct damage. Why don't you go for the next one too?
Brand the Fanatic. Skirmish. Play your opponent gains 1, destroyed, steal.
Steal 3. Yeah.
It is
Easy.
only a net of 2, but having a 3 power that has skirmish is pretty dang good, especially if you can kill it right afterward.
Wait, I disagree with your math. I think it's a net 5. Because
How is it a net 5?
well, it's net 5 because assuming you play it and it dies right away, right? For some reason, your opponent gains 1, but then they lose 3, so they're now at -2, and you're at +3. So that's a 5 amber swing.
Okay, I see your point.
Now a card that just says steal 3 is a 6 swing, but I mean this is pretty good. The annoying thing, the thing you have to be careful of is if your opponent has ways to get it off the board without destroying it, such as something that returns it to your hand or deck, or just straight purges it. Then
just something you definitely have to look out for on an Archon card, and something you have to be aware of if it's in your sealed deck.
Yeah, because then that destroyed effect won't trigger, so you got to be careful about that. But if you can get it to trigger, it's quite good. And I actually feel like there's more of a variety of ways to get it to trigger in this set than there was in Age of Ascension.
Although there are a few more cards that can bounce it.
Yep. Okay. So next up is Chain Gang. And hey, Keynes, just make sure. I think you might be letting go of the button of your push to talk just a little bit too early again. So just be careful of that. So Chain Gang is a 3-power elf thief, and it has action steal 1. But it pairs well with another card called Subtle Chain that we'll get to later. Subtle Chain's an action, but Chain Gang has, after you play Subtle Chain, Ready Chain Gang. And in that action where you steal 1, you shuffle a Subtle Chain from your discard pile into your deck. So that means, assuming you have one of these on the board and a Subtle Chain in your hand, you can steal 1, play the Subtle Chain, get the benefit from that, ready the Chain Gang, steal a second amber, and put the Subtle Chain you just played back into your deck, so that you'll draw it again later.
It is a great combo if you can get it.
Yeah, seems real good. Cool. Dusk Runner is an upgrade that has been around since set 1. I think this was in Age of Ascension as well, right? So it's been in all 3. Dusk Runner is an upgrade that gives the creature it's attached to Reap Steal 1, which is real good.
It's definitely good with the Vindas, and then anything else with the Reap effect.
So
it's just.
Would you rather typically play this on a Shadows card or on one of your other houses?
What was that?
Do you typically prefer to play this on one of your Shadows creatures or on something from another house?
Depends. If I have a ready one, I'll probably play it on a one in Shadows. Although there are definitely a lot better cards to play it on outside of Shadows.
Hmm. Yeah, I think my favorite thing to get it onto is a big twig.
Yeah, just how you just can't kill it. Ever.
Yeah. Yep. And yeah, great reap effects. All right, cool. Why don't you go ahead?
Fidget.
Hmm.
2 power elusive. Reap. Discard a random card from your opponent's archives or the top card of their deck. If that card is an action, play it as if it were yours. So almost like a Merkins.
Hmm. Yeah, really similar. Just a little less, slightly less good in that.
Except for instead of a play effect, it's a reap effect.
Right, yeah. So it's better in that you can get it over and over again. It's less good in that it only works if you hit an action. So little bit of a trade off there. But fun. I'm excited about it.
What do you hope to hit when you reap with it?
Oh man. Well, it depends on the circumstance, right? Uh, I think
Well,
one of my favorite Merkins hits ever was when I Merkinsed into a burn the stockpile. Uh, and that's the kind of thing you could do with this card. So and the cool thing is even if it's something in my opponent's archives, I'm probably excited to see it discarded, even if I don't get to play it.
oh yeah,
Yep.
just it's definitely another good card to get. Death.
Oh yeah, yeah. If you could get Dusk Runner on it, uh, wow. Yep.
It's a lot of control with that. It's
Yep.
just a bit easy to kill.
Yeah. Yep. Oh man. Yeah, it'd be a real target, but it would make your opponent sad for sure. Cool. So the next one is Hidden Stash. It is and then you can do the next couple. So Hidden Stash is an action, gives you a bonus amber, and then you archive a card, which I love in Shadows because, like I said, Shadows has so much uh, timing cards that care about timing, and so that's why I like it with Logos. But Hidden Stash lets you do that archiving in house, which is really nice.
Uh, should I go on to
Yep, go for it.
so into the night? The other card in the combo. Until your
Mm-hmm.
next turn, non-shadows creatures cannot be used to fight.
Nice.
It's really nice. It's just a good card, and then especially paired with the next card. Oh
Mm-hmm.
man, you just pile it up.
Yeah, we'll go for it. Read the next one.
Has an amber pip, no safety in numbers. Deal 3 damage to each creature that belongs to a house that has 3 or more creatures. So what you do is they have a big board. You
Mm-hmm.
lock them out with a Inky Gloom and Into the Night. Then you wait until they play more creatures. No safety in numbers. Just kills everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, and then they're sad, but you're
Very
happy.
sad.
Nice. Cool. The next one is this one's been around for a while. Oubliette is a 3 power. It's not a 3 power. It's an action that it does say power 3 on it, but when you play it, you purge a creature with power 3 or lower, which of course is like a great way to get rid of a Brend, but it's also just a great way to get rid of something gnarly that you
Uh,
don't
get
want
rid
to see again.
get rid of an enemy Brend. Of course, that doesn't work with yours.
Right, yes, you would not want to use it on your own, for sure. And the reason is because, I had to explain this to somebody in local play the other day, so I know some people get confused about this. Because it just says purge the creature, it's not destroying it. So a card like Special Delivery says if the creature it says deal 3 damage to a flank creature, and if that damage destroys the creature, purge it. So there, the creature actually is destroyed. But in the case of Oubliette, there's just no destroy event. The creature isn't destroyed; it's simply purged, and so the destroyed triggers wouldn't happen. Uh, and that also means you can use it to get rid of something that has like a Biomatrix backup or backup copy, something like that. Again, that would normally keep it from getting destroyed. This doesn't care about it getting destroyed. It just purges it outright.
Yeah, it's just another creature control.
Yep.
Never bad in chat.
Yep. Cool. All right, the next one is another old card, Skeleton Key, and you'll. I mean, it's not shocking. We get more of these like repeat cards as we're into uncommon and rare. It's really the commons where they load the new cards. But Skeleton Key is an artifact, an item, and you can. It has the action. A friendly creature captures 1.
It's a very versatile card. It's good because it's reusable, and then especially with Selwyn capture, it's mine. So it's just a steal one with that.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if you happen to get Selwyn, but even without that, it's just a good stalling tactic, and can lead to situations where your opponents end up with a bunch that you can too much to protect or something. So works out nicely.
Yeah.
All right.
And it's nice with some like just other cards. It's a good way to just keep them off the check.
Yeah. Totally. Okay. Go ahead.
Another old card, 3 in a row.
Yep.
Special Delivery. Has an Amber Pip. It's an artifact. Has Omni Sacrifice Special Delivery. Deal 3 damage to a flank creature. If that damage destroys that creature, purge it.
Yep.
Card that's foreshadowing a card that's coming up. It's nice on a Skelly Caper you have on your side for sure.
Yeah. Totally.
Very nice. And then you have and it's just it's almost an Oubliette, except for you gain an Amber Hip, and it's only on a flank creature, and the destroyed effects come into play.
Yeah, and it's worth noting you can sometimes get the purge on a bigger creature too, because I mean, let's say you have a 7-power creature, but it already has 4 damage. Well, the special delivery can cause it to be purged then. So yeah,
it's real nice getting rid of the creature that's killing all your guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Okay, next one.
Spike Trap has an Amber Pip. It's an artifact. Has Omni Sacrifice Spike Trap. If you do, deal 3 damage to a flank.
To each flank creature. Yep.
Oh, to each flank creature. Yep, my bad.
Yep, no worries. Yeah, that means it hits your own as well as your opponent's, which is interesting.
It's very good with Brand.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I said, I think there are definitely more ways to deal with him here. And I love the flavor text on this one. Contents 1 carrot, 304 nails. Yeah, 305 is also... No, is this a special number? No, I don't think it's a special number. But, yeah, 1 carrot, 305 nails. Okay, and now we finally we're back to Subtle Chain. So it's interesting. The Chain Gang is, I think, a common. Let me double check that.
It was an uncommon.
It is? Okay. Correct. Yeah, it's an uncommon. And Subtle Chain is also an uncommon. So yeah, you're not going to get them together all the time, it seems like. And they're both fine by themselves. So Subtle Chain is almost, I mean, it's really the same card as Mind Barb. You gain an amber and your opponent discards a random card from their hand. the real madness comes in if you get it with the chain gang, I think. But it's fine. It's fine
Oh yeah,
as just by itself, but it's extra good if you get it with the chain gang.
as was mine barb.
Yeah. Yep.
It's a real nice control.
Yeah. And then the next one is Subtle Maul, which is an artifact and weapon, and it says action. Your opponent discards a random card from their hand. Um, that one, yeah, that one has also been in every set. Um,
Yep.
I think that makes 3 cards in Shadows this time around that can make your opponent discard a card. That's Avinda, the Subtle Chain, and Subtle Maul. So lots of opportunities to do that, and if you can hot chain, but if you can get several of those working together, then you can kind of wreck their hand.
And then there's fidget, which doesn't affect their hand, but discards
Oh,
some.
yep, yep. Still ways to mess with their cards. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, it's very annoying.
It's what?
It is very annoying if they
Oh yeah.
have those cards.
Yep. Totally. Cool. Okay. Go ahead.
This is my favorite or personal favorite card.
Mm-hmm.
Has an amber pip. It is too much to protect. Steal all but
Yep.
6 of your opponent. Why it has an amber pip? I don't think anyone will ever know.
Right. Like it needs it. Well, sometimes you get it real early and it's not good. So at least you get to have the 1 amber. But yeah, it definitely is overkill to get it. To get it with, when your opponent does have more than 6. And I like there are ways from maybe capturing with Skeleton Key to playing a Bren, things like that, to drive your opponent up even farther past 6 if you're going to do this. So yeah, it's fantastic if you can use other means to make your opponent get a lot of amber and then really get huge value out of this fun stuff.
Yeah,
and
you can do a lot to go overkill.
Yeah, I most like it if you can pair it with cards that steal 1, right? Because if you can do this and then steal down from 6 to 5, that's where I think the real magic is.
And then this one, I believe, is also in all 3 sets.
Yep. Yeah, I think if you want one card that really defines Shadows, I think this is it. Yep. Cool. Okay, you want to do the next one too?
All right. Whisper. 3-power creature has elusive. Action, lose 1. If you do, destroy a creature. I like the flavor text on this one because it definitely clarifies if it wasn't already clear. It's which I've wanted to see in Shadows.
It's what?
They are an assassin, which I've wanted to see in Shadows.
Yep.
Fits the theme and is also very strong.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I think like an obvious comparison point would be Bullet Eye, who has Reap, destroy a flank creature, and this is worse than that. In that, I mean, it's 2 amber worse, but it's better in that you get to pick any creature that you want, and it's just a straight up destroy creature. So in that,
it's nice getting those big creatures, especially with taunt. Like if they have a Dominator on board and they have creatures next to it, just get rid of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so next up is Customs Office, which is an artifact. This is also a good old card, and we're into the rares now, so we're about halfway through the cards, I guess, because most of them are rares. So Customs Office says your opponent must pay you an amber in order to play an artifact, and man, it's if you're playing a deck with a lot of artifacts, it is just the worst if your opponent gets this on the board.
It is a nightmare, especially with my 7 artifact deck.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then the next one is a new one, Finch Cloak. And I think it's funny. Like it's such a uh, an obvious reference to Robin Hood. You know, Finch instead of Robin, and then Cloak instead of Hood. Um, but anyway, Finch Cloak is a 4-power elf thief, and her fight and reap ability is if you have less amber than your opponent, steal 1. Otherwise, each player gains 1. That seems pretty good. I think that'll be interesting to see that.
No,
in
it's
play.
amazing, especially with too much of attack.
Yeah.
Well, what if you have more than amber than them? Still,
Oh, right, because yeah, you push them up. Yeah, it could be crazy. Cool. Yeah, why don't you do the next couple?
uh, another artifact has an amber pip gambling den. At the start of each player's turn, that player may name a house. If they do, reveal the top card of their deck. If it is of the named house, they gain 2. Otherwise, they lose.
Otherwise, they lose 2. Yeah. Gross.
So, one thing I wanted to point out with this Logos is amazing with this card. Because not only can you get a draw with knowing what card it is,
Mm-hmm.
Also with Chaos Portal, you can use Chaos Portal right afterward if need be.
Mm-hmm.
That will make up for it.
Yeah, interesting. It also, I think, could be quite good with Star Alliance, because Star Alliance has a couple cards that let you sort the top 3 cards of your deck, and so at that point you would you would actually know what's there, which would be pretty good.
One small disadvantage is what card was it? It was Simone, right? Simon.
Simon, yep. Oh yeah, that'd be dangerous to play this with Simon. Ooh, gross.
Nope.
Cool. Okay.
Although if they have one, it's amazing.
Yep.
Hunter or hunted action that gains you an amber. Ward a creature or move a ward from a creature to another. It looks pretty good on paper. I'm not sure how well it would play out.
Yeah, I mean being able to ward one of your creatures has a lot of potential in shadows. There's some pretty valuable creatures to keep around for a turn.
It's nice being able to steal a ward.
Yeah, that's extra good. I think being able to effectively unward one of their creatures and ward one of yours. That's seems good. Cool. All right. So the next one is Key of Darkness, which is one of those Shadows key cheats you were talking about.
Yep.
It,
of course, not very good, but
right, yeah. So, and this has been in every set so far. This one, you forge a key at +6 current cost. If your opponent has no amber, forge a key at +2 current cost instead. I mean, if you can forge for 8, that's solid. But it's really hard to make sure that your opponent will be at 0 when you have at least 8. So I find that this just doesn't go off very often.
The only thing I can see us working with is probably Guards Disguise, which is not in the set that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I had this in Age of Ascension in a deck with Guard Disguise, and it still just wasn't very good.
Yeah, it's still not great. Because even then, at the +2, you have a disadvantage trying to get the +2,
right.
And it's still worse than another key cheat.
Yep. And then the other one is Key Forgery, which is an artifact with a bonus amber, and it says when your opponent would. Oh, so this isn't a key cheat on you. This I think really is almost like a replacement for miasma. Um, but yeah, so when your opponent would forge a key, that player names a house, reveal a random card from your hand. If that card is not of the named house, destroy key forgery, and they do not forge that key, and no amber is spent. So, yeah, this basically has a pretty good chance of at some point in the game making your opponent wait an extra turn to forge a key, which is good.
It's amazing at the start if you can get it out early.
Hmm.
Because it doesn't get rid of it once they forge a key. It's only if it goes off.
Right.
You for all three. And then it piles up their amber for you. If you know
Right.
what card that would go with.
Yes, they might even have too much to protect. Yep.
Too much to protect.
Yep. Okay, cool. Go ahead.
Lethal distraction. Action with an amber pip. Choose a creature for the remainder of the turn. Whenever this creature takes damage, it takes an additional. There's one effect. I'm not sure if. I'm guessing that's after the original damage.
Yeah, whenever is after. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's in the timing chart. Yeah, so I
if
think
it
for something like
it would be
Vinda,
amazing with the Vindas.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't think it would work, although thematically I feel like it should, but yeah, I don't think it would. Cool. Go ahead. Next one.
Long fuse mines and artifacts with an amber pip. Has Omni, sacrifice long fused mines, deal 3 damage to each creature not on the flame. Goes pretty well with either really special delivery and spike trap.
Yeah, or the Chimera Eclipse, right? You use this and then get rid of the flanks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think this is one of my favorite Shadows cards. If you can get this, especially because it's Omni, it sets up this situation where your opponent feels like, I don't really want to build up my board more because they're just all gonna die. And I like when my opponent feels that way.
Especially with if they have a lot of big creatures, it's great with what was it? No safety in numbers. Because all the 4 or higher powers just get wiped.
Yeah, potentially. Assuming you kill the right number of them.
1 to 6.
Yep. Cool. Okay. So next up is Mac the Knife. Repeat from all 3 sets. Mac the Knife is a 3-power elf thief with elusive, and you can use Mac the Knife as if it belonged to the active house. So you can use it on your non-shadows turns. It has action, deal a damage to a creature. If this damage destroys that creature, gain an amber. That is a pretty nice action. If you can pull that off where you finish off a creature with the damage from Mac, it's a good way to finish it off and you still get the amber. Otherwise, you can always reap with it, and that's not bad either.
Yeah, it's pretty great. It's one of my favorites, especially because you can reap. It's not just the Omni, deal 1 damage to a creature.
Yep.
It just makes it that much better. Also, something you can use to fight with in an emergency.
Yeah, totally. And again, no matter which house you picked. Yep. So the next one is Manchego, who's a 3-power human thief. When you play Manchego, if you have 5 or fewer cards in your deck, steal 2 amber. And it has the fight effect. You may shuffle Manchego into your deck, which is interesting.
This is one of those cards where it can definitely be useful to save it for later. It's an archive.
Yeah, archiving is fine, but it is interesting because if you can get it on the board and even save it, for later, then keep it alive, then it can put itself back in your deck toward the end of the game, which is and you could potentially have this happen, multiple turns in a row, right as you get to the very end. So pretty
Oh yeah,
interesting.
that's the big capability. Is if you can do that, it's
Hmm.
just insane.
Hmm. Yep.
And
Cool. Hmm.
there's actually a card coming up. Oh, actually, it's the next card.
Go for it.
Uh, Rigged Lottery. It's an action. Gives you it has an Amber Pip. Each player discards the top 5 cards of their deck. For each Shadows card discarded, its owner gains 1. This both has the capability of being able to put it in your deck, get rid of it for an Amber,
Hmm.
and you can if you have 10 or fewer cards, you can get rid of them, then play Manchego
Hmm.
and get the steal too.
Yeah, yeah, they could definitely work pretty well together. Yeah. Uh, cool. And then the next one is Ring of Invisibility, which is an upgrade with a bonus amber that says this creature gains elusive and skirmish. Yeah.
It's great on something like Dominator, and I believe this one has this been in all 3 sets, or was that
I think it
this one?
was only in Call of the Archons, but I'm not 100% sure. Let me see here. Um, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was just Call of the Archons.
So
Nope,
for the
nope,
thing,
I was wrong. It's in both.
okay.
Yep, or all three. Yep. Why don't you do the next two?
Uh, Sack of Coins action has an Amber Pip. Deal 1 damage to your creature for each Amber in your pool, which is just great with too much to protect.
Yeah, yeah, or
Especially
just
on the bigger creatures. It's very. It's basically why key sheets don't exist, is because this is a good card in this house.
right, right, because yeah, it's so easy to get a bunch of amber. Yep, yep.
Then we have Scowly Caper, 2-hour Elf Leaf. Has Skirmish. Scowly Caper enters play under your opponent's control and can be used as if it belonged to any house. At the end of your turn, destroy one of Scowly Caper's neighbors. So I
Very
mentioned this
interesting.
earlier, how you can get rid of it with a special delivery. Wish I had it the one time it was played on my.
Yep. Yeah, it's annoying and it's weird. Although it's a bit of a two-edged sword because you give it to your opponent and yeah, it is going to destroy one of their creatures, but it's also an extra creature they can reap with, right? So um, I'm not totally sure that the math works out great on it. Um, yeah,
It's
sometimes I
nice.
feel a little bad giving it to them.
It's nice if you can ensure that it's not gonna if you're towards the end and you're about to kill their creatures so you can get captured amber or whatever. It it's almost always a good card because they can't get any net out of it. It's just too short of a time.
Hmm. Yep. Cool. Okay, so the next one is Selwyn the Fence. You've mentioned this a few times. Selwyn the Fence is a 3-power elf thief with Fight, Reap, Move, and Amber from one of your cards to your pool. This is her third set she's been in. Yeah, and it is a cool effect. Like if you have this with a card like Skeleton Key, or you have some of the creatures that can capture, it's good. The interesting thing to me has been that uh, actually Shadows has never been the house with a lot of capture, so it feels like there's a little bit of a mismatch, right? Like sometimes she's good, but she's not necessarily good, and she's really best if you have some other house, like let's say Sarian, uh, that does a lot of capture, right? So it's a little hit or miss.
and that's something that kind of changed in the set with the other cards like that capture. There was I'm blanking here. What was one of them?
Uh, from the old sets or this one?
This one. There's Skeleton Key, which is you steal one and reap for one. Again, it's actually pretty dang good with Dusk Runner.
Yeah, the other one is Hugger Mugger.
Yeah.
The one in this set, yeah. Yep. Cool, yeah, and then so the next card is Sneck Lifter, also third set for him. Sneck Lifter is a 2-power elf thief. After you play Sneck Lifter, you take control of an enemy artifact, and while it's under your control, if it does not belong to one of your 3 houses, it is considered to be of House Shadows. And I love, so there's this sort of recurrent theme in Shadows cards that isn't in every card. It's definitely not as prevalent as like Seal, but it's using your opponent's resources uh, against them, and this is a great example
messing
of
with
that.
it.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's really nice to be able to take one of your opponent's archives and know for sure that you're gonna be able to treat it like it's Shadows.
Artifacts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just either get rid of their resources or you use them against them.
Mm-hmm.
And next one is the Quiet Anvil. It's an artifact that has an amber pip. Keys cost -2. After a player forges a key, destroy the Quiet Anvil.
Yeah.
The big thing I see with this is you use too much to protect, or you play Brand too much to protect. Kill Brand with whatever you want to use,
Mm-hmm.
and then Quiet Anvil, or then you use whatever to steal, so they're at none. You can play Quiet Anvil, Key of Darkness. It's a complicated combo, but it works.
Mm.
So you're
Right.
forging at current cost.
Yeah, that wouldn't be so bad. Yeah, I mean, I
More
like.
complicated than it sounds.
Yeah, I mean, Quiet Anvil is good anytime you think you're going to be able to forge before your opponent, right? So if you can pull off a cheat, it's extra good for that reason. But yeah, I think it's just it's a good card without a weird combo like that, as long as you can time it right. But if you can give it that sort of timing, then it could be extra good, a good combo enabler.
And then even without Key of Darkness, it's great to have a too much protect with some steel, just so they can't forge with it.
Yeah, totally. Cool. Okay.
Next one we have the Shadow Council. It's a creature with 3 power, has 3 types: Elf, Leader, and Thief.
Hmm.
Has elusive. While the Shadow Council is in the center of your battle line, it gains action steal 2.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that's so good.
It's just so situational. You have to keep it out for a turn. Is the big problem.
Yep. Yeah, but it's 3. I mean, 3 power with elusive. Like, it's more likely to stay on the table than Naughty was, so that's okay, I think. And then, yeah, and then you just have to have a way to put enough things out on the flank past it that it stays in the center. But I think
the other thing that something that Keymore can help in some cases. Actually, no, never mind.
Right, because it's going to remove evenly.
Yep. Less in the Woods can.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Okay, so the next one is Treasure Map. This one's old school. It is an action with a bonus amber. If you have not played any other cards this turn, gain 3 amber. For the remainder of the turn, you cannot play cards. So, if
this is just plain great.
Yeah, it can be. It
in
can be
a
quite
lot of
good.
circumstances.
Yeah, a turn 1 gain 4 is not bad, unless your opponent has swindle. Uh, but yeah, turn 1 gain 4 is definitely not bad, and it's also if you have cards on the board that you can use, then this is really good because it doesn't. Unlike a card like Swindle that has Alpha and Omega, this doesn't actually prevent you from using cards. It just that extra 3 amber hinges on you not playing other cards on the turn.
Yeah, which makes it all the more better.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's definitely more flexible. Uh, and then the next one is Weazened. I think it's like Weasel with sand in there. I don't know. Weazened, which is a 1-power beast thief with deploy and elusive. And it says if Weazened is on a flank, destroy it. After a player forges a key, gain 2 amber, which is pretty cool.
No, this is even better with what is it? Quite. You're forging for basically -2 if you can forge with it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Or
totally.
sorry, no, not -2. That's if you use it with Key of Darkness. It's -4. Just you have
Yeah.
the amber beforehand.
Right. Yep. Yeah, and potentially this card can generate 8 amber from that effect over the course of the game, not counting, if you have like a key hammer or something. But assuming a normal, the game ends at 3 keys, yeah, that could potentially give you 8 amber, which is pretty good. Yeah, it seems interesting. Cool. Well, you want to go over these last 6?
Okay, so they're all almost exactly the same except for they're for the other houses. Um, so I'll just go over the Brobnar plant. Brobnar plant has 1 power. It's an elf thief. It has elusive. After a player chooses Brobnar as their active house, gain 1. And something interesting is it only includes houses of the current set.
Right, right. Although Brad has said that if this card were to show up in a future set where there were a different set of houses, he said there's no reason why they wouldn't, make a plant for whatever houses are in the set. Yeah.
I'm guessing legacies, of course, will not change. It will still be the same.
I'm not sure about that. That'll be interesting. It's interesting because it's
at
a
least if
special rarity,
they haven't
right?
been removed. If if it hasn't been removed.
Yeah, I don't know. That'll be interesting to see how that pans out. And my understanding is that the reason this is a special rarity and not just um, not just a rare or something, is, well, first of all, that if you get one, you're just as likely to get the others, but uh, you can only get one for a house that you have in your deck. So at least that's my current understanding. Yeah, so it will match one of your houses, which means that you will definitely have opportunities to have the amber gain trigger.
No, it makes sense.
But if your opponent also has that house, it's extra good. Um, yeah, and I love, they did different art, so I'll just kind of, for the video, I'll pop through these really quick. But there's the Dees plant, which is all well, the creature is pretty much the same, but it looks much more Dees like. The Logos plant is like a weird creature, like a weird experiment.
You can see they're doing some weird thing to it with the whatever liquid that is.
Yeah. The Saurian plant looks very primeval. The Star Alliance one looks like a space plant, I guess, and then the Untamed one looks like maybe a carnivorous plant.
Yep. And something interesting to note about Shadows as a whole is there in this entire set there are two non-human or elf creatures.
Right, there's an alien.
And then the beast
Right.
we sent.
Yeah, and they're
And
mostly elves.
yep. There is a Shadow Council who has the extra type of leader, and then I think all of them are thieves.
Uh, yeah, I think you're right. I mean, yeah, which is
So
interesting. Were there? I think in other sets they might have had at least some that were. Oh, you're wrong. There's a fairy as well. They also got a fairy.
in this set,
Yeah, yeah. The fidget is a fairy.
oh yeah,
But yeah, you're right. It's mostly elves.
and
Um,
they're all thieves, at least in this.
yep, yep. Crazy stuff. Uh, yeah, and I think being able to gain an amber anytime that house is chosen again, especially if you match some houses with your opponent, is pretty cool.
Uh, do you have a preference on which plant you would get? Like
Um,
not having the house, but if you're
yeah, I mean, um, yeah, I think I'd rather. Well, it'll be interesting to see, right? Like Dees.
like what house do you think your opponent would have in an Archon situation?
I feel like Dees is such a strong house. I'll be excited anytime we get a Dees plant because it means that I have Dees, and also means that anytime my opponent takes a Dees turn, I'm going to gain one, um, and it'll take the pain away a little bit. What about you?
All of them are pretty good. I think probably logo, either that or
Mm-hmm.
disc.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they're gonna be playing. If they have logos, there's a good chance they're gonna be playing it a lot.
Yep. Yep. Cool. All right. Well, I'm really excited to get to play with these more as the set releases and we start to dig into it. Thanks very much for taking the time, Cadence, to go over these with me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. Cool. See you for Thanksgiving.
See you then.